I want to ask you about race relations in America, which you've been vocal about in the past. It's a very hot button issue today, particularly in the wake of so much civil unrest stemming from fatal encounters with white police officers and African American males. I guess my first question is, do you ever get profiled, Bishop?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was born and raised in this country, and as a minority in this country, very few of us have lived our lives, especially as long as I've lived, and not been profiled in some way. But
Yes.
but I'm unique because I grew up during the civil rights movement. So
Right.
I grew up when we had to use third water fountains and third bathrooms and all of that, and so I remember my father having to be served at the back of the restaurant and us having to eat in the car and couldn't get out. It really wasn't that long ago.
Yes.
Today we don't have that as overt racism as we have covert racism.
Okay.
We have it in subtle ways, and some of it isn't just racism. Sometimes it is antiquated systems that skew themselves unfavorably for minorities, and sometimes it's even unintentionally so. And that's why I think it's very important that we have these conversations
Yes.
amongst reasoned people.
Yes.
Because if reasoned people are so busy being politically correct that we can't speak, then unreasonable people start setting buildings
Amen.
on fire and killing people. And I think I think they're forcing us to have a conversation that we traditionally are too polite to have.
Right, that's so true. In a recent op-ed for the Huffington Post, you called on the church to act as somewhat of a unifier in order to achieve what you said is a pluralistic society. You wrote, "The church with a capital C must embody the very definition of unity and end the racial, doctrinal, gender and ideological feuds." Is this a realistic expectation, particularly when you consider the lack of multiracial congregations around the country?
First, I think we have our own house to clean before we clean anybody else's house. And when we started Reconciled Church with Bishop Harry Jackson and James Robinson, we came together, we started bringing thought leaders from every stream of faith, Christian faith, that we could. And we had to admit that the 11 o'clock hour is still far too segregated.
Yes.
And because it is, our ideas, anytime you don't worship with, work with, interact with diverse people, your ideas about things can become skewed. When you read the books that you wrote, then your truth is skewed by your own opinion. And so it is incumbent upon us to fulfill the prayer of Jesus Christ that we might be one.
Right.
And once we master that, then to help the world to have the conversations that it needs to have.
Yes.
I think that the church is a critical element in the restoration of America, not only in preaching the gospel, which we must do, but also holding America accountable to its highest and best ideals and best practices.
Yes.
as it relates to becoming a voice for those who are voiceless.
I like that, very wise. You're someone who's very accomplished in your own right. You've written dozens of best-selling books, produced a number of notable films. Your Potter's House Ministries continues to reach millions of people around the world. You've been married to a beautiful wife, Sarita, for 34 years. You've got 5 grown children. What is your greatest accomplishment?
Wow. The things that are most dear to me are the things that are most personal to me. It is not the outward accolades and success of men, because I find that to be so fickle.
Yes.
But there are moments I've had with my children and watching them grow. It is the fact that our relationship has survived and flourished for 34 years between my wife and I. It is the fact that I took care of my mother till she died, who died of Alzheimer's, and I got to be a good son. I'm much more concerned about being a good person than I am about being a good preacher.
Yeah.
And people who know me as a person, for them to say you did good, that to me is my greatest accomplishment.